Hey guys, I wanted to tell you a little story about two guys that I know, and I've seen these two particular type of people for years and years. So it's not just these two individuals. But the first individual was a guy that I started training with way back in 2004. The guy was very athletic. You know, he had just started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and at his local college, he had some guys that were kind of, doing kind of like an underground fight thing or whatever, kind of like Fight Club type of thing, but not really like that. I mean, it was these backyard brawl type things. And he had basically been called to the table to come and participate in this thing, and he didn't really want to, just didn't really have the confidence. He had just recently started training, and basically he found himself in a situation where he was kind of being bullied. He had individuals that were really pressuring him to the point of not just peer pressure, but they were actual, it was in a negative sense. There was guys that were really pressuring him hard to do this and basically bullying him. Ultimately, fast forward a couple weeks, he had talked to me, talked to our head instructor at the time. We set up a class for him where we kind of put some gloves on and we went against him, and he was able to gain a little bit more confidence. He actually went to the event, and the individual who had been kind of bullying him, he ended up beating the guy up pretty good. All right, so that's one perspective. He gained a lot of confidence from that particular situation, confidence that has not left him even to this day. Now let's flip this over to another perspective. I had another guy that trained with me for a while, and he was always real hesitant to try many of the techniques. He was just very, very resistant to putting himself in a situation where he might possibly fail. Anytime that he was in a position where he could try to execute one of the techniques that we had been learning or training or whatever, he would always kind of psych himself out of it and say things like, oh, well, the guy's setting me up, he's baiting me, he's this, he's that, and he just wouldn't do it. Ultimately, what ended up happening is the guy ended up quitting. He was never able to achieve that level of confidence in what he was training by his own mental reservations. And as a result of that, he stagnated, he got frustrated, and he ultimately quit. I wanted to provide to you these two different perspectives for this. At some point, both guys are learning the same exact technique. Both guys are going through the same training program. But at some point, you're going to have to step out, set your pride, your ego, set all that aside and say, you know what? I'm going to try this, and I might epically fail. But if I get the first step out of 4 steps in this technique, then I'm going to count it as a win. And the next time this comes around, if I get 2 steps out of this 4-step technique, I'm going to count it as improvement, and so on and so forth. The point being is this: if you never step out and try it, you will never gain any confidence. If you never gain any confidence at it, you are destined to quit. So all you're doing is prolonging the inevitable. If you're so worried about winning that you're not worried about learning and trying, you're going to epically fail. That being said, and I'm giving you guys a little disclaimer here, end of the jiu-jitsu training note, onto personal development and growth. That being said, the Bible talks about in Hebrews 5:14 about exercising your spiritual senses, about developing those, about growing in those types of things. If you're not actually stepping out in faith when you have those impressions, when you feel like God is speaking to you, because remember, we're told to walk by the Spirit. If you're not actually exercising that and stepping out in faith and saying, you know what, I don't know if this is of you, God, it seems to align with your word, but I don't know if this is what you're telling me to do. If you never step out in faith, you will never gain that confidence to know that that is God that is speaking to you, or that this is just some random impression that happened to come upon you. So, guys, understand, there's two different tracks that you can follow. One of them, you're going to exercise, you may epically fail. But in that learning process, you will grow. The other one, you never step out in faith. You never give it a try. And ultimately, the inevitable happens and you just end up quitting because you just, you never gain the confidence to actually step out and try. So, I wanted to share that with you guys today. So, a little bit of personal application and personal growth on top of some jiu-jitsu growth there for you, or whatever it is that you train. So you guys think about that, train hard. God bless.